Nobody other than long-deceased Romans knew this place existed until the 1960s. Some say a landslide uncovered portions of the ancient theater of Philippopolis, and the excavation began. I prefer another version of the story, where a homeowner was digging in his yard and found the ruins. He and all his neighbors then had to abandon their homes so that this magnificent place could be revealed. This is without a doubt the most spectacular historic site that I have ever been fortunate enough to walk through in person. But it's only a small portion of what Plovdiv, Bulgaria has in store for visitors.
It's a wonderful city. It's just a mixture of so many different architectures and so many historic periods, and just events unfolded here in thousands of years, and we've got traces from that all around the city. We have Roman, we have ancient Thracian, we have some left from Greek times, and we have lots of medieval as well.
In the next few minutes, I'll tell you plenty more about this ancient theater, as well as many of the other sites in Plovdiv. I like Sofia, but I absolutely love Plovdiv. I came to the city for a 3-night stay during my time in Bulgaria, and this place has just been amazing. It took a 3-hour train ride from Sofia to get here. The history is what strikes you first here in Plovdiv. This is the oldest living city in Europe, with experts saying that it predates Athens by 2,000 years. You'll see a lot of Roman ruins in this video, but Plovdiv was already 6,000 years old when those were built. Let's get back to that theater. Indications are that it was originally built in the period from 98 to 117 AD. After its discovery, excavations took place from 1968 through 1979. It is one of the best preserved ancient theaters in the world, and the only such structure in Bulgaria. This place almost defies belief.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, it's crazy that it goes back that far, that it's so well preserved. Yeah, and it's really cool what the Romans were capable of doing. Just, they were organized. So we were just talking about how all the other tribes weren't able to achieve the same thing. That's why it's so rare.
There are plenty of photos and video of the theater online, but nothing can replace the experience of actually being in the space. Those who visit even get a chance to walk on the stage, where actors performed almost 2,000 years ago.
Still, it just doesn't compare just because of the scale. I mean, there's just something different about being in the place.
It was a bit puzzling to me that most people just looked upon the theater from outside of the fence. The cost of getting inside to explore the entire facility was 5 Bulgarian lev, or just a little more than $2.50. Maybe the coolest thing about this place is that it continues to be used for concerts and plays. It's probably overwhelming at first for individuals to perform here, knowing about what has come before. Today, the theater seats around 3,500 people, while the original structure could accommodate 6,000. This is situated in Oldtown, nestled between two hills. In an example of how old and new coexist here, traffic rolls along this highway directly under the theater. It doesn't take long to find another spot where that juxtaposition of historic and modern is apparent. The ancient stadium of Philippopolis lies right in the middle and underneath the main pedestrian shopping street. Philippopolis is just what the city was called back at that time. Modern Plovdiv was built almost precisely on top of where the Romans built their city.
We didn't plan our city according to the Roman city, but some things just so happens to be in pretty similar locations. It just happens this way.
Streets and buildings already existed here when the stadium was discovered exactly 100 years ago in 1923. The entire facility is below street level. Marble seats and a portion of the track are out in the open on the northern end of the stadium, right in the middle of one of Plovdiv's squares. A model on site shows what the rest of the stadium looks like.
Now we are to this end. We are actually situated just above here.
Down the street, indicators on the pavement show where a couple of the columns at the southern entrance stood. The distance to this portion of the seating is 240 meters.
Now, by the looks of it, what do you think they used it for?
Chariots?
Chariot races, horse races, different games.
The stadium was built early in the 2nd century AD. A rarity for the time, it was actually situated within the city walls. It had space for 30,000 spectators to watch whatever the event of the day happened to be. By comparison, the Colosseum in Rome is almost twice as big as this, with original seating for 50 to 55,000 people.
The Romans, they had a standard by which they would build. For the stadium, it was half the population of the city.
It is free to visit this small portion of the stadium. Up the street, one store does charge a fee to enter its basement and see the continuation of the track and the seating there. It is almost difficult to go to any part of the city and not see Roman ruins. This is the Roman Forum of Philippopolis. The discovery here was made in 1971 as preparations were being made to build a main post office. It covers roughly 49 acres just off of the main modern pedestrian street. That makes this the largest Roman forum in Bulgaria. A little more than half of that 49 acres has been excavated. The forum served as the commercial, religious, and administrative center of the city. Evidence shows that there was a building of treasures and even a library in this location. The Odeon, which served as a small space for speeches and performances, is apparent. A cool feature of all of the sites such as this is that inscriptions can often be found throughout the space. The forum dates to the 1st century AD. Archaeologists say this site was abandoned in the 5th century. Just a short distance away is another small area containing a similar batch of Roman ruins. I couldn't find anything that would tell me exactly what I was seeing in this location. My guess is that since it is so close to the forum, that this is a portion of that city center complex. It is interesting that these remnants of an ancient time are now just part of the city, a place for people to sit and relax and for kids to play. As I did in Sofia, I took the free Plovdiv tour very early in my time in the city. My guide Nikki took us to many of the main places visitors will want to see, and I was able to get a sense of what was here and the history behind it. Again, I highly recommend these types of free walking tours no matter which city you are visiting. Do make certain that you leave a tip at the end. Aside from seeing the ruins and checking out remnants of the past in Plovdiv, there are numerous other features of the city to take in. The most astounding place is the central pedestrian street. Taking vehicles out of the picture here makes walking around so much of a pleasure. As is the case in many similar areas, a pedestrian avenue is a perfect spot for street performers, and Plovdiv is no exception. This pedestrian district stretches for 1.8 kilometers. By most accounts, that makes this the longest such avenue in Europe, besting the one in Copenhagen. Along the way here, there are a multitude of shops, restaurants, and spots to get a drink. Plovdiv was celebrated as the European Capital of Culture in 2019. That is commemorated all over the city, but especially at this spot along the pedestrian way with the Together sign. There is a series of steps leading up the hill from the sign, and in the middle of that is this water feature. Water cascades down through the middle of the steps, providing a visual and audible treat. To one side at this location is the statue of Milo. Milo was a man who came to this same spot virtually every day when he was alive. Being a fixture of the environment, he was honored with a statue. Legend has it that if you whisper your wish into his ear, it will come true. Also, it's said that if a person rubs his right knee, they will be lucky in love. Here in Plovdiv, there are a number of opportunities for short hikes. Right now, I'm heading up one of a number of hills in the city to visit the Alosa Monument and hopefully get some amazing views. The hike up Bunadzi Hill is remarkably easy. It probably took less than 20 minutes to get from the bottom to the top. It's a wide stone path the entire time, and quite a few people make the trek. At the top is the imposing Alosa Monument. It's a 36-foot tall concrete sculpture sitting on a 20-foot tall granite pedestal. This commemorates Soviet casualties during the occupation of Bulgaria during the Second World War. On at least 2 occasions, there were campaigns to remove the sculpture, but both failed. It looks like it is here to stay. Across the plaza from the Alosa Monument is a smaller memorial. This is in honor of Zar Alexander I of Russia, who was involved in the 1987 and 1988 war to liberate Bulgaria from Ottoman rule. Those monuments are fine, but the main appeal about coming to this site are the 360-degree views of the city below.
It's an amazing sight. You can see the entire city from here. The monument is something that you can see everywhere, but this is something else.
Getting up to this vantage point is especially revealing after having explored the city for a day or two on the ground level. It gives perspective.
After you have seen the old city, it's nice to see everything from here.
Plovdiv is known as the City of Seven Hills. The problem is that there are now only 6. I was told that one of the hills was essentially leveled to provide materials to use for creating infrastructure as Bulgaria grew. There is another high point that I visited while in Plovdiv. This one was just above the ancient theater. The Church of the Holy Archangels, which is a new addition to the city, sits at the apex of this hill. Views from the outside terrace are remarkable. It took just a 5-minute walk from the theater to reach this spot. Getting to and from the theater and the church means walking through Oldtown. This area is fascinating. There are stone streets, and some of the houses around here are incredible. Many have been turned into museums. This one is particularly striking. It is the Plovdiv Regional Ethnographic Museum. Just remember, this was at one time a private residence. There is plenty more to see in Oldtown. In one spot, a gate has been preserved from the ancient city. There are several grand churches, some containing very impressive artworks. And every once in a while, you'll come across just the cutest local resident. The Kapana neighborhood is also a place in which it is worth spending a little time. Kapana is very close to the main pedestrian boulevard, and most of its streets are for foot traffic only as well. This has always been considered the artistic hub of Plovdiv. Not long ago, there were many artists and studios in the neighborhood. With rising prices for rent, however, many of the artists have been pushed out into other parts of town, replaced by shops and, more specifically, restaurants. Plovdiv has a strong street art scene, and that is most heavily concentrated here in the Kapana district. Many walls have been turned into canvases for artists, and the results are stunning. They are vibrant, they are colorful, they are fun, and in many cases, they are meaningful. When I visited Plovdiv, I stayed at the Skerzo Guest House, which was just a 10-minute walk from the center of town. A great location and a perfect place for me, simple and clean. The price was right too, at $70. That's not $70 per night either. That was $70 for my entire 3-night stay. Just around the corner from where I stayed was the Sarian Garden Park. What a great spot this was. It contained artwork and statues and fountains, and was a popular place for people to walk or sit at all times of the day. This is also the second place in Bulgaria where I've seen a cluster of tables and chairs and people, mostly men, playing chess. There are matches going on here all day long. Spectators gathered around and players deeply concentrating on the board in front of them. Zar Alexander Garden Park is also home to the Singing Fountains. That is a large water feature full of fountains that are always active. It's a beautiful place, even in the middle of the day. The main attraction here, though, comes several nights each week during the summer and on some special occasions. The fountains are combined with lighting and classical music to put on a show. Unfortunately, none of that was scheduled while I was in town. And finally, Plovdiv had many places where I could stop in for a beer during the afternoon. One spot where I visited a couple of times was Beer Therapy. It was situated within the Pedestrian district close to the main street. Very convenient and also quite tasty. Taken all together, Plovdiv is one of those places I could go and stay for much longer than 3 nights. It seems as though others would agree.
The modern way of life is very laid back, very relaxed. Everything here is pedestrian, and it's I think it goes very well.
It's a really cool town. It's really clean. Everybody's super nice. I'm not a city person at all, and I love it.
Feels very safe
I
too.
think, yeah.
I hope I did a decent job giving you an idea of what Plovdiv is like and showing some of the top sites to visit here. I only had 2 full days in this place, and that makes it impossible to fully explore the city and find those little things that make it even greater than I know. I'll head back to Sofia soon, and I'll have a little bit more than a week left here in Bulgaria. The month has gone really quickly. I hope you've enjoyed the content here on Old, Alone, and Far From Home. Let me know if there's something else that you would like to see as I travel from place to place. See you soon.